The California sun hung low over Coronado Beach, painting the Pacific in shades of copper and gold. Emma Catherine Carter stood behind the scarred wooden bar of the anchor, a white towel draped over her shoulder, her hands moving with practiced precision as she wiped down the counter. 29 years old, 5'3", with blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, and eyes the color of winter steel. Small, compact, built like a coiled spring, the bar smelled of salt air, aged whiskey, and old wood. Neon signs buzzed quietly on the walls. Budweiser, Coors, a faded Navy anchor that had been there since the 70s. The floor was weathered pine, grooved with decades of boot heels. 6 tables scattered across the room, each one marked with initials carved by sailors who'd shipped out and never came back. Emma moved like she owned the place, because she did. The clock above the liquor shelf read 18:47 hours, 7 minutes until the evening crowd arrived. Emma reached beneath the bar, her fingers brushing the cold steel of a Sig Sauer P226 mounted in a quick-release holster. Muscle memory. She didn't look down, didn't need to. The door creaked open. Emma's head snapped up, her body tensing in that subtle way that spoke of training, of instinct honed through repetition. A man walked in, late 30s, fixed shoulders, weathered face. He wore a faded flannel shirt and jeans, but Emma saw past the civilian clothes. The way he scanned the room, the way he moved on the balls of his feet, the trident tattoo on his left forearm, partially hidden by his sleeve. "Hammer," Emma said, relaxing. "You're early." Garrett Hammer Blackwood grinned, pulling out a stool at the bar. "When am I ever late, Carter?" "Afghanistan, 2019. You were 40 minutes late for exfil because you stopped to grab some kid's teddy bear." Hammer laughed, the sound rough and genuine. "That bear was important." Emma poured him a whiskey, Maker's Mark, neat, the way he always took it. "How's Sarah?" "Good. Kids are good. Tommy made the varsity soccer team. 15 years old and already faster than you. Hell, my grandma's faster than me now." Hammer took a sip, his eyes distant. "You hear from Admiral Hawkins?" Emma's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Just enough. "Yeah. And?" "He wants me to extend." "The operation?" "Another 12 months." Hammer was quiet for a moment. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, and the bar fell into shadow. Emma reached up and pulled the chain on an old brass lamp. Warm light spilled across the counter. "You gonna do it?" Hammer asked. Emma didn't answer. She turned and grabbed a bottle of tequila from the shelf, poured herself a shot, and downed it in one smooth motion. The burn felt good, real. "What else am I gonna do, Hammer? Go back to Pendleton and teach hand-to-hand to boot lieutenants who think they know better? You could rest. You've earned it. Rest is for the dead." The door opened again. 2 more men walked in, one tall and lean, the other shorter, built like a bulldog. William Doc Sullivan and Marcus Ghost Thorne. Emma's heart did something complicated when she saw Marcus. 42 years old, graying at the temples, eyes that had seen too much and said too little. Marcus had served with her father. "Evening, gentlemen," Emma said, her voice neutral. Doc slid onto a stool beside Hammer. Emma, looking lovely as always. "Flattery gets you a $2 discount." "I'll take it." Marcus stood at the end of the bar, his hands in his jacket pockets. He never sat, never relaxed. Emma poured him a bourbon without asking. 4 roses, single barrel. He nodded his thanks but didn't speak. The silence stretched. Hammer cleared his throat. "So, we expecting trouble tonight?" Emma met his eyes. "When are we not?" The bar filled slowly. By 1930 hours, 8 men sat scattered across the room. All of them looked like civilians. None of them were. Emma moved between tables, refilling drinks, laughing at bad jokes, playing the part, but her eyes never stopped moving, scanning faces, reading body language, watching the door. At 19:47 hours, the door opened. 5 men walked in. Emma's hand froze halfway to a bottle of gin. Her breath caught. The leader was tall, broad-shouldered, with a shaved head and a scar running from his left eyebrow to his jawline. Late 40s, Slavic features, cold eyes. He wore a black leather jacket over a gray shirt, and his boots were military issue, Russian, if Emma's memory served. Behind him, 4 men fanned out, younger, hungrier, the kind of men who'd done wet work and liked it. The bar went quiet. The leader walked to the center of the room and stopped. His eyes found Emma. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Emma Carter," he said. His accent was thick, Russian. "You look just like your father." Emma set the bottle down slowly. Her voice was calm, flat. "Bars close for private event. You'll have to come back tomorrow." The man laughed. It was a cold sound, devoid of humor. "I don't think so. We have business to discuss." "I don't do business with people I don't know." "Then allow me to introduce myself." He spread his arms wide, theatrical. "Viktor Kozlov, former Spetsnaz, current entrepreneur, and an old friend of your father's." Emma's blood turned to ice. She knew that name. She'd seen it in her father's classified files, the ones she wasn't supposed to have read. Viktor Kozlov, arms dealer, smuggler, the man who'd orchestrated the ambush in Kandahar province in 2013, the ambush that killed Captain David "Ghost" Carter. Emma's hand drifted toward the bar, toward the Sig Sauer. "My father didn't have friends like you." Victor's smile widened. "Oh, but he did. He had many friends, until he became a problem." "Get out." "I'm afraid I can't do that." One of Victor's men stepped forward, a thick-necked brute with a shaved head and a nose that had been broken more than once. He cracked his knuckles. "Boss says we stay, so we stay." Emma looked at him, really looked at him. 6'2", 240 pounds, slow, overconfident. She could see it in the way he shifted his weight, the way he puffed his chest. He thought she was an easy target. "Last chance," Emma said. "Walk out, don't come back." Victor laughed again. "Or what? You'll call the police? Please, we both know how this ends." Emma's eyes flicked to Hammer. He was watching her, his hand resting casually on the table. Waiting. She looked at Doc, at Marcus, at the 5 other men scattered across the bar. None of them moved. Victor noticed. "Your customers seem smart. They know when to mind their own business." "Yeah," Emma said softly. "They're real smart." The brute stepped closer. "Come on, little girl. Let's not make this difficult." Emma moved. She grabbed a bottle of Jack Daniels from the bar and hurled it at the brute's face. He raised his arms instinctively, and Emma vaulted over the bar, closing the distance in 2 strides. Her first strike was a palm heel to his solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. He doubled over, and Emma brought her knee up into his face. Cartilage crunched. Blood sprayed. The second man lunged at her from the side. Emma sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. Aikido, joint lock. She drove him face first into the bar, then swept his legs out from under him. He hit the floor hard. The entire exchange took 12 seconds. Victor's smile faded. Emma stood in the center of the room, her chest rising and falling in controlled breaths. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were cold. "I said get out." Victor stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled a phone from his jacket and dialed. He didn't break eye contact. "Da, it's me. Send everyone." He hung up. "You made a mistake, little girl," Victor said. "I was going to make this quick. Now?" He smiled. "Now you get to watch your bar burn. You get to watch everyone you care about die. And then, when you're begging for mercy, I'll tell you the truth about your father." Emma's jaw tightened. "What truth?" "That he was a coward. That he begged for his life before I put a bullet in his head." Emma's hand moved toward the Sig Sauer beneath the bar. But before she could reach it, Hammer stood up. So did Doc. So did Marcus. So did the 5 other men. They didn't say anything. They just stood there, hands loose at their sides, eyes locked on Victor and his men. Victor's confidence wavered, just for a second. What is this? Emma walked back behind the bar, her movements slow and deliberate. She poured herself another shot of tequila and downed it. Then she looked at Victor. You asked what this is, she said. This is the anchor, and these aren't customers. Hammer cracked his neck. They're her team. Victor's eyes widened. He looked at the men, really looked at them. The tattoos, the scars, the way they stood, the way they moved. Navy SEALs, all of them. Victor's phone buzzed. He answered it, his voice tight. Da, how long? 20 minutes? Good, bring everyone. He hung up and pointed at Emma. You think you're clever? I've got 15 men on the way. Ex-military, ex-police. You're outnumbered. Emma smiled for the first time. It was a cold smile, a predator's smile. You really should have done your homework, Victor. What are you talking about? You think I didn't know you were coming? You think I didn't know you've been in San Diego for the past 3 days, casing this bar, asking questions about me? Victor's face went pale. I've been waiting for you, Emma continued, because I wanted you to walk in here. I wanted you to feel safe. I wanted you to call your backup. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Because now I get to take all of you down at once. The 20 minutes passed in silence. Victor and his 2 remaining men stood near the door, their confidence eroding with every passing second. Emma stayed behind the bar, wiping down glasses, humming softly to herself. The SEALs sat motionless, their eyes never leaving Victor. At 20:15 hours, the door burst open. 15 men poured in. They carried bats, knives, and 2 of them had pistols tucked into their waistbands. They were a mix of nationalities, Russian, Eastern European, a few Americans who looked like they'd spent time in private military companies. Hard men, dangerous men. Victor's smile returned. Now, let's see how tough you really are. Emma set down the glass she'd been cleaning. She walked out from behind the bar, her hands empty, her expression calm. She stopped in the center of the room, directly in front of Victor. Before we start, she said, I want you to understand something. My father taught me a lot of things. He taught me how to shoot, how to fight, how to survive. She paused. But the most important thing he taught me was this. Never underestimate your enemy. Victor sneered. Big words from a little girl. Emma's eyes hardened. You think I'm just a bartender? You think this is just a bar? What else would it be? Emma turned and looked at the men behind her. Gentlemen, show them. Hammer reached up and unzipped his jacket. Beneath it, he wore a black t-shirt with a single word printed in white. SEAL. Doc did the same. So did Marcus. So did the others. Victor's face drained of color. Emma turned back to him. This isn't just a bar, Victor. It's a safe house, a meeting place, a hub for Naval Special Warfare Command. And these men? She gestured to the SEALs. They're not here by accident. They're here because I asked them to be. One of Victor's men, a tall, wiry guy with a shaved head, took a step back. Boss, we need to leave, now. Victor shook his head. No, we outnumber them. We have weapons, You have nothing, Emma interrupted. You walked into a trap, and now you're going to pay for what you did to my father. Victor's hand moved toward the phone in his jacket, but Emma was faster. She closed the distance in 3 strides, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. The phone clattered to the floor. She swept his legs out from under him, and he hit the ground hard. Before he could recover, Emma pressed her knee into his chest, her hand wrapped around his throat. Tell me the truth, she hissed. Who killed my father? Victor gasped for air. Go to hell. Emma increased the pressure. Wrong answer. Emma, Marcus said quietly, not yet. Emma looked up at him. Marcus's face was unreadable, but his eyes held something. Regret, maybe, or guilt. Emma released Victor and stood up. You're right, she said. Not yet. She turned to face the 15 men Victor had brought. They stood frozen, uncertain, their weapons loose in their hands. Emma's voice was calm, almost conversational. You have two options. Option one, you drop your weapons and leave. Option two, you try to fight, and my team puts you on the ground in under a minute. Choose. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one of the men, a scarred, grizzled veteran with dead eyes, dropped his bat. I'm out. He turned and walked toward the door. Two others followed. Victor screamed, You cowards! I'll kill you myself! But the rest of the men were already backing toward the exit. Within 30 seconds, only 8 remained, the true believers, the ones who'd follow Victor into hell. Emma sighed. Option 2 it is. The fight was brutal and one-sided. Hammer moved first. He grabbed a bar stool and hurled it at the nearest attacker, catching him in the chest and sending him sprawling. Then he waded into the group, his fists moving like pistons, a jab to the ribs, an elbow to the jaw, a knee to the gut. He moved with the efficiency of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. Doc fought like a surgeon, precise, clinical, devastating. He targeted pressure points and joints, breaking limbs with surgical precision. A strike to the brachial plexus, a kick to the knee, a chop to the trachea. His opponents fell like dominoes. Marcus stayed back, his movements minimal. He waited until an attacker came within range, then struck with lethal accuracy. A punch to the liver, a kick to the temple, a throw that sent a man crashing through a table. He didn't waste energy, didn't showboat, just efficient, calculated violence. The other SEALs joined in, and the bar became a battlefield. Emma faced 3 men. The first one swung a bat at her head. She ducked, stepped inside his guard, and drove her fist into his solar plexus. He folded like a lawn chair. The second one tried to tackle her, but Emma sidestepped and brought her elbow down on the back of his neck. He hit the floor and didn't get up. The third one pulled a knife. Emma's eyes narrowed. She circled him, her hands raised, her body loose. He lunged, the blade flashing in the dim light. Emma parried with her forearm, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. The knife fell. She swept his legs, followed him to the ground, and locked his arm behind his back. He screamed. Emma leaned close to his ear. Tell Victor this is just the beginning. She stood up, leaving the man groaning on the floor. The fight lasted 90 seconds, but Victor wasn't finished. He scrambled to his feet, blood streaming from his mouth, and bolted for the back door. Emma started after him, but froze when she heard a woman scream outside. He's got someone, Doc shouted from the doorway. Emma ran to the entrance. Through the window, she could see Victor in the parking lot, one arm wrapped around a woman's throat, a civilian who'd been walking past the bar. He had a pistol pressed against her temple. The woman was crying, shaking. Back off, Victor screamed. Back off or I kill her. The distance was 150 yards, maybe more. The parking lot was poorly lit, just a few street lamps casting weak yellow light. Wind from the ocean gusted across the pavement. Emma could see it moving the trash in the gutter. 8 miles per hour, maybe 10. Right to left. Hammer appeared at Emma's side, holding something wrapped in a towel. He pulled the cloth away. A Remington 700.308. Wood stock, worn smooth by decades of use. Emma's breath caught. She knew this rifle, her father's rifle, the one he'd taught her on. It was in your office safe, Hammer said quietly. Figured you'd want it close. Emma took the weapon. The weight was familiar, comforting. She'd fired this rifle 10,000 times, maybe more. Every Saturday for 3 years, her father had driven her to the range. Again, Emma, breathe, squeeze, again. She moved to the doorway and dropped to one knee, bracing the rifle against the doorframe. Through the scope, Victor's face jumped into focus. He was moving, jerking the hostage left and right, using her as a shield. The woman's terrified face filled half the scope picture. Emma's hands were steady. Her breathing slowed. She calculated automatically, muscle memory taking over. Distance, 150 yards. Wind, 8 to 10 miles per hour, right to left. Elevation, roughly level. Temperature, 65 degrees. The bullet would drop approximately 6.2 inches at this distance. She adjusted the scope. 3 clicks up, 2 clicks right. Victor kept screaming, "I'll do it! I'll kill her!" Emma exhaled slowly, let half her breath out, held the rest. Her heart beat in her ears. Thump, thump, thump. She squeezed the trigger between heartbeats. The rifle bucked. The suppressed shot cracked across the parking lot. Through the scope, Emma saw Victor's shoulder explode in a spray of red. Not lethal, not center mass. Exactly where she'd aimed, right shoulder, away from any major arteries. He spun backward, dropping the pistol, releasing the hostage. The woman collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Doc and 2 other SEALs sprinted across the parking lot, securing Victor before he could recover. Emma lowered the rifle and stood up. Hammer was staring at her. "Jesus Christ, Emma," he said. "That's a 150-yard shot in low light with crosswind, on a moving target, with a hostage in the line of fire." Emma handed him the rifle. Her voice was flat. "My father made me practice this shot 10,000 times. I could do it in my sleep." She walked back into the bar. When it was over, 15 men lay scattered across the bar and parking lot, groaning, bleeding, broken. The SEAL stood among them, barely winded. Emma walked back to the bar, poured herself another shot of tequila, and downed it. Victor was on the ground outside, clutching his shattered shoulder. Emma crouched beside him. "I told you, never underestimate your enemy." Victor spat blood. This isn't over." "Oh, it's over," Emma said, "but not the way you think." The door opened, and a woman walked in. Mid-30s, sharp suit, dark hair pulled back in a bun. She held up a badge. "NCIS Special Agent Catherine Brennan." "Victor Kozlov, you're under arrest for weapons trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and about a dozen other charges I'm too tired to list." Victor's eyes widened. No, this is a setup," Agent Brennan finished. "Yeah, we've been watching you for 3 months. Commander Carter here was kind enough to help us bring you in." Victor turned to Emma, his face twisted with rage. You were working with them?" Emma smiled. "I told you, this is a safe house. Did you really think I'd open a bar in Coronado without Uncle Sam's blessing?" Victor lunged at her, but Hammer grabbed him by the collar and slammed him back down. "Stay down, asshole." Agent Brennan gestured to the door, and a team of federal agents poured in, securing the scene, handcuffing the injured men. Emma watched it all with a sense of satisfaction. Justice, not revenge, just like her father had taught her. But then Victor laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound, and it sent a chill down Emma's spine. "What's so funny?" she asked. Victor looked up at her, blood dripping from his mouth. "You think you won? You think this is over?" "It is for you." "No, little girl, it's just beginning." He turned his head and looked at Marcus. "Tell her, Ghost. Tell her the truth." Emma's blood ran cold. She looked at Marcus. His face was pale, his eyes wide. "What is he talking about?" Marcus didn't answer. Victor laughed again. "You want to know who killed your father, Emma? You want to know who sold him out in Kandahar?" Emma's hands clenched into fists. "What are you saying?" Victor's smile was cruel. "I didn't kill your father. He did." He pointed at Marcus. The bar fell silent. Emma stared at Marcus, her heart pounding in her chest. "He's lying. Tell me he's lying." Marcus's face crumpled. He dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Emma, I'm so sorry." Emma's world tilted. No, you. "I didn't mean for him to die," Marcus sobbed. "I swear I didn't mean for it to happen." Emma's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, her mind reeling. Hammer and Doc rushed to her side, but she pushed them away. "Get away from me! All of you, get away!" Victor laughed even as the agents dragged him toward the door. "Now you know, little girl. Now you know the truth. Your father's best friend, his brother, the man he trusted most in the world, he's the one who betrayed him. He's the one who got him killed." Emma looked at Marcus, at the man who'd been like an uncle to her, the man who'd taught her how to shoot, how to track, how to survive, the man who'd attended her father's funeral and held her while she cried. "Why?" she whispered. Marcus couldn't meet her eyes. "Gambling debts. $300,000. They threatened my family, Emma, my daughter. I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." "I know, and I've regretted it every day since. I've tried to make it right. I've tried to protect you. Don't you dare say his name." Emma stood up. Her legs felt like rubber, but she forced herself to stay upright. She walked to the bar, opened a drawer, and pulled out a Sig Sauer P226, her father's gun, the one he'd carried on his last mission. She turned and aimed it at Marcus. The room froze. "Emma, don't," Hammer said. "He killed my father. He made a mistake, a terrible, unforgivable mistake. But killing him won't bring your dad back." "I don't care." "Yes, you do." Hammer stepped between Emma and Marcus. "Your father taught you honor. He taught you discipline. He taught you that there's a difference between justice and revenge. Don't throw that away." Emma's hands shook. Tears streamed down her face. "He deserves to die." "Maybe, but you deserve better than to carry that weight for the rest of your life." For a long moment, Emma didn't move. Her finger hovered over the trigger. One pull, one bullet, and it would all be over. But then she heard her father's voice, a memory from years ago when she was 15 and learning to shoot. "The hardest shot you'll ever take, Emma, is the one you choose not to take. That's what separates warriors from killers. Know the difference." Emma lowered the gun. Marcus collapsed, sobbing. Agent Brennan stepped forward and cuffed him. "Marcus Thorne, you're under arrest for treason, espionage, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent." Emma didn't hear the rest. She turned and walked out of the bar, into the cool night air. The ocean stretched out before her, dark and endless. She sank to her knees on the sand and screamed. It was a raw, primal sound, torn from the depths of her soul. She screamed until her throat was raw, until there was nothing left. And then she sat there, staring at the waves, and let the tears come. Behind her, the anchor stood silent. Inside, the SEALs cleaned up the wreckage. Outside, the federal agents loaded Victor and Marcus into separate vehicles. Emma didn't watch. She just sat there, listening to the ocean, and tried to remember how to breathe. The first part of her mission was complete, but as Victor had said, this was just the beginning. And Emma had a feeling the worst was yet to come. 3 days passed like ghosts. Emma didn't open the anchor, didn't answer her phone, didn't leave her apartment above the bar. She sat in the dark, her father's Sig Sauer on the coffee table, a bottle of bourbon beside it. The gun was loaded. The bourbon was half empty. On the 4th morning, someone knocked on her door. Emma ignored it. The knocking continued, persistent, rhythmic. 5 knocks, pause, 5 knocks. A pattern she recognized. SEAL calm protocol, friendly approach. She stood up, legs stiff from sitting too long, and opened the door. Garrett Hammer Blackwood stood in the hallway, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He looked tired, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "You look like hell, Carter." "Thanks. Can I come in?" Emma stepped aside. Hammer walked in, set 1 coffee cup on the table, and sat down on the couch. He didn't say anything, just sat there, drinking his coffee, staring at the wall. After 5 minutes, Emma spoke. "He was there, Hammer, at my father's funeral. He stood next to me, held my hand, told me everything would be okay." "I know." "He looked me in the eye and lied." I know. 13 years. 13 goddamn years, and he never said a word. Hammer set his coffee down. What would you have wanted him to say? Emma's laugh was bitter. The truth. I would have wanted the truth. Would you have listened? Or would you have put a bullet in his head the moment he confessed? Emma didn't answer. She knew the answer. So did Hammer. Admiral Hawkins wants to see you, Hammer said. Naval Amphibious Base, 1400 hours. He says it's important. I'm done, Hammer. I can't do this anymore. Yeah, you can, because that's what Carters do. They don't quit. They don't run. They stand up, dust themselves off, and finish the mission. Emma looked at him, really looked at him. Garrett Blackwood, 15 years in the teams, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 Silver Star, a wife and 3 kids waiting for him in Virginia Beach. And he was here, in her apartment, drinking bad coffee, because that's what brothers did. What's the mission? She asked quietly. Hammer smiled. That's my girl. The drive to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado took 20 minutes. Emma sat in the passenger seat of Hammer's Ford F-150, staring out the window. The Pacific stretched endlessly to her left, blue and indifferent. Surfers bobbed in the waves. Joggers ran along the beach. Life continued, oblivious to the fact that Emma's world had shattered. They passed through the base gates at 13:45 hours. Guards waved them through. Hammer parked outside Building 164, a nondescript concrete structure that housed Naval Special Warfare Command. Emma had been here 100 times, training, briefings, debriefings, but today felt different, heavier. Inside, a young lieutenant escorted them to the 3rd floor. Conference room 3B. The door was closed. The lieutenant knocked twice and opened it. Rear Admiral James Hawkins sat at the head of a long table. 58 years old, gray hair cropped military short, jaw like a chunk of granite. Next to him sat NCIS Special Agent Catherine Brennan, and beside her, a woman Emma didn't recognize. Late 40s, sharp eyes, expensive suit, civilian, probably DOJ or FBI. Commander Carter, Admiral Hawkins said, thank you for coming. Please, sit. Emma sat. Hammer stood behind her, hands clasped in front of him. Military bearing. Admiral Hawkins leaned forward. First, I want to say that what happened at the Anchor was exemplary work. You maintained operational security, executed the mission perfectly, and brought in a high-value target without civilian casualties. The Secretary of the Navy personally commended your efforts. Emma said nothing. The Admiral continued. However, the situation has become more complicated. How? Agent Brennan opened a folder and slid it across the table. Emma flipped it open. Inside were surveillance photos, transcripts, financial records, names, dates, locations. Victor Kozlov wasn't operating alone, Agent Brennan said. He's part of a larger network, an international arms trafficking ring that's been active for over 15 years. Emma looked up. How large? $50 million a year, stolen military hardware, weapons-grade explosives, small arms. Some of it ends up with cartels in Mexico, some with militia groups in the Middle East, some with domestic terror cells right here in the United States. The woman in the expensive suit spoke for the first time. Her voice was clipped, Boston accent. My name is Elizabeth Morgan, DOJ, Special Counsel for National Security. We've been investigating this network since 2019. Victor Kozlov was our primary target, but he's not the top of the food chain. Emma's jaw tightened. Who is? Morgan slid another photo across the table. A man, late 50s, silver hair, expensive watch. He stood on a yacht, champagne glass in hand, smiling at the camera. Malcolm Ashford, Morgan said, former Army colonel, Delta Force, retired in 2015. Currently runs a private military contracting firm called Sentinel Solutions. On paper, they provide security for overseas oil operations. In reality, they're the logistical backbone of the trafficking network. Emma stared at the photo. Most turn him down, but some don't. We've identified at least 12 former special operators working for Ashford. We believe some of them are stealing weapons from military stockpiles. Emma's blood ran cold. You're telling me there are more like Marcus? Yes. The room fell silent. Emma closed the folder and pushed it back across the table. No. Admiral Hawkins frowned. Commander, I said no. Find someone else. There is no one else. Ashford is careful. He vets everyone, but he's got a weakness. He's arrogant. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. And he's got a particular interest in female operators. Emma's eyes narrowed. What kind of interest? The kind that makes him sloppy. We've intercepted communications. He specifically asked his recruiters to target women in special operations roles. He sees them as exotic, collectible. Emma's stomach turned. You want me to play honey trap? I want you to do your job, Admiral Hawkins said, his voice hard. Marcus Thorne betrayed your father. He betrayed his team. He betrayed his country. And he's not the only one. There are 11 more just like him out there, Commander. 11 more men who swore an oath and broke it. Men who are putting American lives at risk every single day. You want justice for your father? This is how you get it. Emma stared at the Admiral, then at Agent Brennan, then at Morgan. They were right. She knew they were right, but the thought of pretending, of smiling and flirting, and playing a role while men like Marcus walked free, made her sick. How long? She asked. 6 months minimum, 12 maximum. And if I say no? Admiral Hawkins leaned back in his chair. Then you're off active duty, medical discharge, PTSD. You'll get your pension, your benefits, and you'll never wear the uniform again. It wasn't a threat, it was a fact. Emma had been on thin ice since Yemen. The nightmares, the flashbacks, the panic attacks she thought nobody knew about. One more psych evaluation, and she'd be done anyway. When do I start? She asked. Admiral Hawkins smiled. You already have. Malcolm Ashford is scheduled to visit San Diego next week. He's meeting with potential recruits at a yacht club in La Jolla. You're invited. Emma stood up. I'll need a team. You'll have one. Agent Brennan will be your primary contact. She'll run intelligence and provide legal cover. You'll also have operational support from SEAL Team 3. Hammer has already volunteered. Hammer grinned. Somebody's got to keep you out of trouble. Emma almost smiled. Almost. What about Marcus? The Admiral's expression darkened. Marcus Thorne is awaiting court-martial at MCRD San Diego. He'll be transferred to Leavenworth pending trial. He's cooperating fully, gave us names, dates, locations, everything. I want to see him. Emma, I want to see him. Before I do this, I need answers. Real answers. Admiral Hawkins exchanged a look with Agent Brennan. Finally, he nodded. Tomorrow, 0800 hours. Brig at MCRD. You'll have 30 minutes. Emma turned and walked toward the door. Hammer followed. As she reached for the handle, Admiral Hawkins spoke again. Commander, your father would be proud of you. Emma didn't turn around. My father's dead because someone he trusted betrayed him. I'm not doing this for pride, Admiral. I'm doing this so no one else has to bury their father because of a traitor. She walked out. Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, sat on the edge of the bay. Its buildings low and functional, its grounds immaculate. Emma had been here before, years ago, for joint training exercises. The place always felt like stepping back in time. Marines in dress blues, drill instructors barking orders, the smell of gun oil and fresh paint. The brig was a squat, concrete building near the eastern perimeter. Razor wire topped the fences, guard towers at each corner. Emma signed in at the front desk, surrendered her sidearm, and followed a Marine corporal down a long hallway. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled like disinfectant and despair. They stopped at a steel door. The corporal unlocked it and gestured inside. 30 minutes, ma'am. I'll be right outside. Emma stepped through. The room was small, 10 by 10, a metal table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs, cameras in the corners. Marcus sat in the far chair, his hands cuffed in front of him. He wore an orange jumpsuit. His face was gaunt, hollow-eyed. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. When he saw Emma, he flinched. Emma sat down across from him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence was oppressive, suffocating. Finally, Marcus broke. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "God, Emma, I'm so sorry." Emma's voice was flat. "I didn't come here for apologies. I came for one thing, the buyers. Who is Ashford selling to?" Marcus looked up, surprised. You know about Ashford?" "Answer the question." Marcus swallowed hard. "There are 3 main buyers. A militia group in Montana called the Sons of Liberty, the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico, and a middleman in Yemen who has ties to—" He stopped. "Ties to who?" "To the same people who killed your father, the same network that Victor worked for. It's all connected, Emma. It's always been connected." Emma's jaw tightened. "Names. I need names." Marcus gave her 6 names. Emma memorized each one. Then she stood up. "That's it?" Marcus asked. "You're not going to ask me why? You're not going to—" "I already know why," Emma said coldly. "Gambling debts. Your daughter. You told me that night. What I need now is information to finish what you started, to clean up your mess." "Emma, please. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but—" "You're right. You don't." Emma walked to the door, then stopped. Without turning around, she said, "My father would have died for you, Marcus, and you let him walk into an ambush. There's nothing you can say that will ever make that right." She walked out. La Jolla Cove Yacht Club sat perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, all white columns and manicured lawns, and wealth so old it didn't need to announce itself. Emma arrived at 1900 hours, driving a rented Mercedes because Agent Brennan said it would fit the profile. She wore a black cocktail dress, her hair down for once, minimal makeup. She felt exposed, vulnerable. She hated it. A valet took her keys. Emma walked through the entrance, past marble statues and oil paintings of dead white men in military uniforms. The main ballroom was filled with people, retired officers, defense contractors, politicians. Everyone smiling, shaking hands, pretending they weren't all complicit in the same dirty business. Emma grabbed a champagne flute from a passing waiter and scanned the room. Target acquisition, threat assessment, old habits. Then she saw him. Malcolm Ashford stood near the far window, surrounded by a small group of admirers. Tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed in a navy suit that probably cost more than Emma's car. He laughed at something someone said, and the group laughed with him. Alpha male, center of attention. Emma drained her champagne and walked toward him. As she approached, Ashford's eyes found her. He didn't leer, didn't stare, just smiled, polite and practiced, and excused himself from the group. "I don't believe we've met," he said, extending his hand. "Malcolm Ashford." Emma shook it, firm grip, confident. Emma Carter. Recognition flashed in his eyes, just for a moment. "Carter, any relation to David Carter?" "He was my father." Ashford's expression shifted to one of practiced sympathy. "I'm so sorry for your loss. Ghost was a legend, one of the finest operators I ever had the privilege to work with." Emma's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You knew him?" "Briefly. We crossed paths during a joint operation in Afghanistan. 2010, I think. He was SEAL Team 3, I was Delta. Good man, died a hero. Emma took another champagne flute from a passing tray. He died in an ambush, betrayed by someone he trusted. Ashford's eyes narrowed slightly. I heard. Terrible business. But that's the risk we all take, isn't it? You trust the wrong person, and it costs you everything. Is that a warning, Mr. Ashford? A reminder, Commander. Trust is a luxury in our line of work. So he knew her rank. Interesting. Emma sipped her champagne. I'm not active duty anymore. I heard that too. Medical discharge. PTSD, they said. They said a lot of things. Ashford smiled. Let me guess, you're tired of sitting behind a bar, serving drinks to men who remind you of what you used to be. You want back in the game, but the Navy won't have you. So you're here, hoping someone will throw you a lifeline. Emma bristled. You don't know anything about me. I know more than you think. I know you were the first female SEAL commander in history. I know you led successful operations in Syria, Yemen, and Libya. I know you're one of the best strategic minds to come out of BUD/S in the last decade. And I know you're wasting your talent pouring bourbon for drunk sailors. Emma set her glass down. What do you want, Mr. Ashford? I want to offer you a job. I'm not interested. You haven't heard the terms. I don't need to. I know who you are. I know what Sentinel Solutions really does, and I'm not interested in becoming a mercenary. Ashford laughed. It was a genuine sound, warm and disarming. Mercenary. Such an ugly word. I prefer private military contractor. But semantics aside, you're mistaken. Sentinel Solutions provide security, logistics, training. We work with governments, corporations, NGOs. Everything we do is legal and above board. Then why are you recruiting SEALs at cocktail parties instead of going through official channels? Ashford's smile faded. Because official channels are slow, bureaucratic. By the time the paperwork clears, the window of opportunity has closed. I need people who can think fast, adapt, and execute. People like you. Emma crossed her arms. What's the job? Training assignment, 6 months. We're contracted to train a security force for an oil company operating in West Africa, Nigeria specifically. You'd be teaching close quarters combat, tactical planning, and counterinsurgency tactics. Pay is $200,000, tax-free. Emma's eyebrows rose despite herself. That's a lot of money for a training gig. It's a dangerous region. Boko Haram, bandits, corrupt military, you'd be earning every penny. And if I say no? Ashford shrugged. Then you go back to your bar and I find someone else. No hard feelings. Emma pretended to consider it. In truth, she'd already made her decision the moment she walked through the door. But she needed to sell it, needed Ashford to believe she was conflicted. I'll think about it, she said finally. Don't think too long. The position needs to be filled by next month. Ashford reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Expensive paper, embossed lettering. My personal number. Call me when you decide. Emma took the card. I will. She turned to leave, but Ashford spoke again. Commander Carter, one more thing. She looked back. Your father was a good man, but he made the mistake of trusting the wrong people. Don't make the same mistake. Emma held his gaze. I won't. She walked out of the yacht club, handed her ticket to the valet, and waited for the Mercedes. Her hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists until they stopped. As she drove away, she pulled out her phone and dialed. Agent Brennan answered on the second ring. How'd it go? He took the bait. I'm in. Good. We'll set up a meeting tomorrow to go over the operational plan. In the meantime, lay low. Don't contact anyone associated with Ashford until we give you the green light. Understood. Emma hung up and drove back to Coronado. The bar was still closed, dark, empty. She parked in the back alley, climbed the stairs to her apartment, and collapsed on the couch. She didn't sleep, just stared at the ceiling, thinking about her father, about Marcus, about the 11 other traitors still out there, walking free, pretending to be patriots. Tomorrow, the real mission would begin. But tonight, Emma allowed herself one moment of weakness. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her photos, and found one of her father. He was smiling, wearing his dress blues, his hand resting on a younger Emma's shoulder. She touched the screen gently. "I'm going to finish this, Dad. I promise." Then she set the phone down, closed her eyes, and waited for morning. The sun rose over Coronado like a wound, bleeding orange and red across the horizon. Emma stood on the beach behind the anchor, her bare feet in the sand, watching the waves roll in. She hadn't slept, hadn't even tried. Her mind was too full, spinning with plans and contingencies and the weight of what she was about to do. Her phone buzzed, a text from Agent Brennan. "Briefing at 0900, Naval Amphibious Base, Conference Room 3B, bring hammer." Emma replied with a thumbs-up emoji and pocketed the phone. She turned back toward the bar, but stopped when she saw someone sitting on the back steps. William "Doc" Sullivan. He held 2 cups of coffee, steam rising in the cool morning air. "Figured you'd be out here," Doc said, holding out one of the cups. Emma took it. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep, keep thinking about Marcus." Doc sipped his coffee. 20 years I knew that man, served 3 tours with him, trusted him with my life. And the whole time he was a traitor." Doc nodded slowly. "Yeah, makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who else might be lying? Who else might be waiting for the right moment to sell us out?" Emma sat down beside him on the steps. The wood was rough, worn smooth by years of salt air and footsteps. "That's why we're doing this. That's why I'm going in." "You sure about that? Ashford's not like Victor. He's smart, connected. One wrong move, and you're dead." "I know. And you're still doing it." "I don't have a choice, Doc. My father died because someone he trusted betrayed him. I'm not going to let that happen to anyone else." Doc was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Your dad would be proud of you, but he'd also tell you to be careful, to remember that revenge and justice aren't the same thing." Emma stared at the ocean. "I'm not looking for revenge. Aren't you?" She didn't answer, because deep down, she wasn't sure. The line between justice and vengeance had blurred somewhere in the past 3 days, and Emma wasn't certain which side she was on anymore. The briefing room was packed. Admiral Hawkins sat at the head of the table, with Agent Brennan to his right. Across from them sat Elizabeth Morgan from DOJ. But there were new faces too. A man in his early 30s with sharp eyes and a laptop covered in hacker stickers, and a woman in her late 20s, athletic build, dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. Admiral Hawkins gestured to the seats. "Commander Carter, Chief Blackwood, thank you for coming. Let me introduce the rest of your team." He pointed to the man with the laptop. "This is Declan Ashford. Yes, related to Malcolm. He's his nephew, former NSA. Now he works for us." Declan looked up and offered a tight smile. "Uncle Malcolm and I don't talk anymore. Not since I found out what he was really doing with Sentinel Solutions. Declan will handle all electronic surveillance in cyber operations," Agent Brennan added. "He'll be monitoring communications, tracking financial transactions, and providing real-time intelligence." Admiral Hawkins pointed to the woman. "This is Isabel Rousseau, SEAL Team 5, sniper, second highest marksmanship score in BUD/S history. First was your father, Commander." Isabel nodded at Emma. Her accent was faint, Cajun French from Louisiana. "Your father set a record that stood for 20 years. I came close, but close doesn't count. It's an honor to work with his daughter." Emma felt something twist in her chest. Pride. Grief. She pushed it down. "What's your role?" "Overwatch. When you meet with Ashford or anyone in his organization, I'll be watching from a distance, Long-range support. If things go sideways, I make sure you get out alive. Hammer leaned forward. What about me? You're Emma's handler, Agent Brennan said. You'll maintain regular contact, coordinate with Declan and Isabel, and serve as her lifeline if she needs extraction. You're also her cover story, Emma's boyfriend, the reason she's hesitant about taking Ashford's job offer. Hammer grinned. I can work with that. Emma shot him a look. Don't get any ideas. Wouldn't dream of it, sweetheart. Admiral Hawkins cleared his throat. Let's get to the operational plan. Emma, you're going to accept Ashford's job offer, but you're going to negotiate. Say you want to stay stateside for the first 3 months, training at Sentinel Solutions facility in Arizona before deploying to Nigeria. That gives us time to build your cover and gather intelligence. What's my objective? 3 things, Elizabeth Morgan said, sliding a folder across the table. 1. Identify the other operators working for Ashford. We need names, service records, current locations. 2. Gather evidence of illegal weapons trafficking. We need documentation, financial records, shipping manifests, anything that proves Sentinel Solutions is moving stolen military hardware. 3. Find out who Ashford's buyers are. We know he's selling to someone. We need to know who. Emma opened the folder. Inside were dossiers on 12 men, all former special operations, all currently working for Sentinel Solutions. She recognized 3 of them, men she'd trained with, men she trusted. Her stomach turned. Any questions? Admiral Hawkins asked. Emma looked up. What happens when I get the evidence? We arrest everyone involved. Ashford, his employees, his buyers. We shut down Sentinel Solutions permanently. And if something goes wrong, if Ashford finds out what I'm doing, Agent Brennan's expression was grim. Then we extract you immediately. But Emma, if your cover is blown, Ashford won't hesitate. He'll kill you, and he'll make it look like an accident. Emma nodded slowly. When do I start? Today. Call Ashford. Accept the job. We'll monitor the conversation and adjust the plan as needed. Emma pulled out Ashford's business card and her phone. Her hands were steady. She dialed the number. It rang twice before Ashford answered. Malcolm Ashford. Mr. Ashford, it's Emma Carter. I've thought about your offer. And? I'm interested, but I have conditions. Ashford chuckled. I'm listening. I want to stay stateside for the first 3 months. Training. I need to get my head back in the game before deploying overseas. And I want my own team. People I trust. There was a pause. Emma could hear Ashford breathing, considering. Training stateside is fine. We have a facility in Tucson. As for your team, that depends. Who do you have in mind? Garrett Blackwood, William Sullivan, maybe 1 or 2 others. Hammer and Doc, good men. I've met them both. But Sullivan's still active duty, isn't he? He's considering retirement. Then talk to him. If he's in, I'm in. As for the others, we can discuss that later. Anything else? Emma took a breath. Yeah, I want 250,000, not 200. Ashford laughed. You drive a hard bargain, Commander. I'm worth it. I don't doubt that. Fine, 250. But I expect results. No second chances. You underperform, you're out. Understood? Understood. Good. I'll have my people send you the paperwork. Review it, sign it, and we'll get you started next week. Welcome to Sentinel Solutions, Commander Carter. He hung up. Emma set the phone down. Everyone in the room was staring at her. Admiral Hawkins nodded approvingly. Well done. You sounded convincing. That's because part of me meant it, Emma said quietly. $250,000. That's more money than I've made in 5 years as a SEAL. Agent Brennan leaned forward. Don't lose sight of the mission, Emma. Ashford is a manipulator. He'll offer you money, power, respect, everything the Navy never gave you. But it's all a lie. He's a traitor, and he's using people like you to line his pockets. I know, Emma said, But she couldn't shake the feeling that Brennan was right to worry. Because for just a moment, when Ashford had offered her the job, Emma had felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. The Sentinel Solutions training facility was 2 hours east of Tucson, nestled in the desert between nothing and nowhere. Emma drove out on a Tuesday morning in early August, the Arizona sun already baking the asphalt by 0800 hours. Hammer rode shotgun, scanning the horizon with the practiced eye of a man who'd spent too much time in hostile territory. "Place gives me bad vibes," Hammer muttered. Emma agreed. The facility was surrounded by a 12-foot chain-link fence topped with razor wire, guard towers at each corner, cameras everywhere. A sign at the gate read, "Sentinel Solutions, private property, authorized personnel only." Emma pulled up to the gate and rolled down her window. A guard in tactical gear approached, holding a clipboard. "Name?" "Emma Carter, I'm expected." The guard checked his list, nodded, and waved them through. The gate rolled open with a mechanical groan. Emma drove in slowly, taking in every detail. Buildings arranged in a grid, barracks, mess hall, armory, shooting range. It looked like a military base, only without the flags or the pretense of honor. She parked in front of the main administrative building. A man in his 40s waited on the steps, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding his eyes. Emma recognized him from the dossier. Lawrence Sterling, former Delta Force, now Ashford's second in command. Emma and Hammer got out of the truck. Sterling approached, his expression unreadable. "Commander Carter, Chief Blackwood, welcome to Sentinel Solutions. Mr. Ashford sends his apologies. He's in Dubai closing a deal. Asked me to get you situated." Emma shook his hand, firm grip, calloused palms. "Thanks for having us." Sterling smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let me show you around." The tour took an hour. Sterling walked them through the facility, explaining the training regimen, the equipment, the living arrangements. Everything was top of the line. State-of-the-art weapons, advanced tactical gear, comfortable barracks with private rooms and air conditioning. It was impressive. Too impressive. "Where does the funding come from?" Emma asked as they walked past the armory. Sterling glanced at her. "Contracts. We provide security for oil companies, mining operations, NGOs, high-risk environments. They pay well." "Must pay very well." "They do." Sterling stopped in front of a shooting range. "Speaking of which, I'd like to see what you can do. Mr. Ashford says you're one of the best. I'd like to verify that." Emma's jaw tightened. "You want me to audition?" "I want to see if you're worth $250,000. Hammer stepped forward, but Emma put a hand on his arm. "It's fine." She looked at Sterling. "What do you want me to shoot?" Sterling gestured to the range. 6 targets, 100 yards, pistol. You've got 18 rounds. Let's see how many you can hit." Emma walked onto the range. An instructor handed her a Glock 19 and 3 magazines. She checked the weapon, chambered a round, and approached the firing line. 6 steel targets stood at the 100-yard mark. Small, difficult, especially with a pistol, but Emma had been making impossible shots since she was 15. She raised the weapon, sighted the first target, and fired. The steel rang. She shifted to the second target, fired, hit, third target, fourth, fifth, sixth, 18 rounds, 18 hits, 6 targets down. She set the Glock on the table and turned to Sterling. "Satisfied?" Sterling's expression was unreadable, but he nodded. "Welcome aboard, Commander." The first month at Sentinel Solutions was a blur of training, evaluations, and carefully orchestrated surveillance. Emma spent her days teaching close-quarters combat and tactical planning to a rotating group of recruits, some former military, others fresh off the street with no experience beyond playing Call of Duty. At night, she met with Declan in encrypted video calls, feeding him names, faces, and overheard conversations. Slowly, the picture came into focus. Sentinel Solutions wasn't just a private military contractor, it was a front. Ashford recruited former special operators, men with access, knowledge, and skills, and used them to steal military hardware, weapons, explosives, night vision equipment. The stolen gear was funneled through a network of shell companies, then sold to the highest bidder. And the buyers were exactly who Emma feared: militia groups in Montana, cartels in Mexico, even cells with suspected ties to international terrorist organizations. It was treason on a massive scale. By the end of the first month, Emma had identified 8 of the 12 operators on the DOJ's list. She'd also discovered 2 more names, men who weren't on the original list, but who were clearly involved. She passed everything to Declan, who compiled it into a detailed intelligence report for Agent Brennan and the DOJ. But they still didn't have proof. No financial records, no shipping manifests, no smoking gun. That changed in September. Emma was in the mess hall, eating a late dinner, when Lawrence Sterling sat down across from her. He looked tired, stressed. He set a whiskey glass on the table and drank half of it in one gulp. "Rough day?" Emma asked. Sterling laughed bitterly. "You could say that. Ashford's in my ass about the Nigeria contract. Says we're behind schedule. Wants me to push the deployment up by 2 months." Emma kept her expression neutral. "Can you do that?" "Not without cutting corners, and cutting corners gets people killed." Sterling finished his whiskey and poured another from a flask. "Sometimes I wonder why I got into this business. Money? At first, but now?" He shook his head. "Now I'm just tired. Tired of lying. Tired of pretending this is all legitimate. Tired of watching good men compromise their principles for a paycheck." Emma leaned forward. "Then why do you stay?" Sterling looked at her. Really looked at her. His eyes were bloodshot, haunted. "Because I don't know how to do anything else. I've been a soldier my whole life. This is all I know." Emma recognized that look. She'd seen it in the mirror. "You could walk away." "And do what? Flip burgers? Sell insurance? I'm 46 years old, Emma. I've got no degree, no skills outside the military. This is it for me." "It doesn't have to be." Sterling was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You know what Ashford's really doing, don't you?" Emma's pulse quickened. She kept her voice steady. "What do you mean?" "The trafficking, the stolen weapons. You're not stupid, Emma. You've been here a month. You've seen the equipment. You know it's not all purchased through legitimate channels." Emma held his gaze. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you're different. I think you still have a conscience. And I think if you stay here much longer, Ashford's going to corrupt you the same way he corrupted the rest of us." Sterling stood up. "Get out while you still can, Commander. This place destroys people." He walked away, leaving Emma sitting alone in the mess hall. She waited until he was gone, then pulled out her phone and texted Declan. "Sterling's compromised. He knows something's wrong but hasn't figured out I'm undercover. Might be an asset. Advise." Declan's reply came 30 seconds later. "Proceed with caution. Could be a test. Ashford might be using Sterling to see if you'll break cover." Emma deleted the messages and went back to her barracks. That night, she barely slept. The breakthrough came 2 weeks later. Emma was in the armory, taking inventory, when she noticed something odd. A shipment of M4 carbines had arrived the previous day. According to the manifest, they were purchased from a licensed firearms dealer in Phoenix. But when Emma examined the rifles, she found serial numbers that didn't match the manifest. She photographed the serial numbers with her phone and sent them to Declan. His reply came back within an hour. "Those rifles were reported stolen from Fort Huachuca 6 months ago. You've got your evidence." Emma's hands shook as she read the message. This was it. Proof that Sentinel Solutions was trafficking stolen military weapons. Combined with Declan's financial analysis and Emma's eyewitness testimony, they had enough to bring charges against Ashford and everyone involved. But Emma needed more. She needed to know where the weapons were going. Who was buying them? That was the final piece of the puzzle. She spent the next week digging, listening, watching, and finally she got lucky. Lawrence Sterling was drunk. Emma found him in the mess hall at 2300 hours, slumped over a table, a bottle of Jack Daniels beside him. She sat down across from him and waited. After a moment, Sterling looked up. "You're still here." "So are you." Sterling laughed. "Yeah, I'm still here, still lying to myself, still pretending this is something it's not." Emma poured herself a glass of whiskey from Sterling's bottle. "Tell me something, Sterling. Why do you do it? Why do you help Ashford traffic weapons to people who use them to kill Americans?" Sterling flinched. "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. You're a traitor. You swore an oath, and you broke it. So did you. You're here, aren't you? Taking Ashford's money, training his people." Emma leaned forward. "I'm here because I want to stop him." Sterling stared at her. The silence stretched. Then slowly, understanding dawned on his face. "You're undercover." Emma didn't deny it. Sterling laughed. It was a broken, desperate sound. "Of course you are. Of course Ashford would be too arrogant to see it." He took another drink. "How long?" "Since the beginning." "And you've been gathering evidence this whole time?" "Yes." Sterling nodded slowly. "Good. That's good." He looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. "What do you need from me?" "Everything. Names, locations, buyers. I need to know where the weapons are going and who's paying for them." Sterling was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled a flash drive from his pocket and set it on the table. "This has everything. Financial records, shipping manifests, communications between Ashford and his buyers. It's all there." Emma stared at the flash drive. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I'm tired of being a traitor. Because I want to do one good thing before I die. Because," his voice cracked, "because I had a son, Marine Corps, killed in action in Afghanistan. And every time I hand over a shipment of stolen weapons, I think about him. About how those weapons might end up in the hands of the people who killed him." Tears streamed down his face. "I can't do it anymore, Emma. I can't." Emma picked up the flash drive. "Come with me. Turn yourself in. Testify against Ashford. The DOJ will give you a deal." Sterling shook his head. "I'm done running. When this goes down, I'll take what's coming to me. But at least I'll go down knowing I did the right thing at the end." Emma stood up. "Thank you, Sterling." He nodded. "Get him, Commander. Get that son of a bitch for all of us." Emma walked out of the mess hall and headed straight for her truck. Hammer was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against the hood. "We good?" Emma held up the flash drive. "We're good. Call Brennan. Tell her it's time." Hammer grinned. Finally. The raid was scheduled for 0600 hours. Dawn. 3 days after Emma handed over Sterling's flash drive. But at 0400 hours, Emma's phone buzzed. Declan's voice was urgent. "We've got a problem. Ashford just left his house in Scottsdale. He's heading toward the facility. We think he knows." Emma's blood ran cold. "How?" "We don't know. Maybe Sterling tipped him off. Maybe he figured it out on his own. But he's got 4 vehicles with him, heavily armed. If he reaches the facility before we do, he'll destroy the evidence and disappear." Emma was already pulling on her boots. "Where's the raid team?" 30 minutes out, but Ashford will be there in 15. "Then we don't have 30 minutes. Emma grabbed her go-bag and ran for the door. Hammer was already in the truck, engine running. They drove like hell, pushing the Ford F-150 to 90 miles per hour on the dark desert highway. Emma called Agent Brennan. "We're going in early, just me and Hammer. We have to slow Ashford down until the raid team arrives." "Negative, Commander. You're not authorized." "Then unauthorize me. He's going to destroy everything. We can't let that happen." She hung up. They reached the Sentinel Solutions facility at 0417 hours. Ashford's convoy was already at the gate, 4 black SUVs, armed men piling out. Emma could see Ashford in the lead vehicle, barking orders. Hammer pulled the truck across the access road, blocking it. He looked at Emma. "This is insane. There are 20 of them. 2 of us." Emma checked her Sig Sauer P226. "We don't have to beat them. We just have to slow them down for 13 minutes. They stepped out of the truck. Ashford saw them and stopped. For a moment, he just stared. Then he smiled. It was cold, predatory. "Commander Carter, I should have known." "It's over, Ashford. FBI's on the way. You've got nowhere to run." Ashford laughed. "FBI's 30 minutes out. I'll be gone in 10. He gestured to his men. "Kill them." The men raised their weapons. Emma and Hammer dove behind the truck as bullets tore into the metal. Emma returned fire, dropping 2 men. Hammer took out 3 more with precise shots from his M4. But there were too many. Ashford's men spread out, flanking left and right. Emma's magazine ran dry. She reloaded, but she knew the math. 40 rounds left. 20 men. This was a losing fight. Then she heard it. The deep, rhythmic thump of helicopter rotors. She looked up. 3 Black Hawks appeared over the ridge, spotlights blazing. FBI tactical teams fast roped down, hitting the ground in seconds. Behind them, 30 vehicles poured through the gate. FBI, NCIS, ATF, all of them. Ashford's men dropped their weapons. Some ran, most froze. Ashford himself tried to make it back to his SUV, but Agent Brennan stepped out of a Humvee, pistol drawn. "Malcolm Ashford, you're under arrest." He looked at Emma. For a moment, his face showed something almost like respect. "You're good, Commander. Better than I gave you credit for." "I learned from the best," Emma said. "My father." Ashford was cuffed and dragged away. Emma sank to her knees, adrenaline draining from her body. Hammer sat down beside her. "That," he said, "was the stupidest thing we've ever done." Emma laughed. It was a shaky, exhausted sound. "Yeah, but it worked." The sun rose over the desert, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. And for the first time in 3 months, Emma felt like she could breathe. It was over. 2 weeks later, Emma sat in a conference room at the DOJ building in Washington, D.C., listening to Elizabeth Morgan lay out the case against Malcolm Ashford and Sentinel Solutions. 43 arrests, charges ranging from weapons trafficking to conspiracy to commit treason. Enough evidence to put Ashford away for the rest of his life. But there was a problem. Elizabeth Morgan leaned forward, her expression grave. "We've dismantled Ashford's network, but we haven't eliminated the demand. There are still buyers out there, still corrupt operators looking for a payday. And without Ashford's organization, they'll scramble to find new suppliers." She slid a folder across the table. Emma opened it. Inside were names, faces. Some she recognized from her time at Sentinel Solutions. Others were new. "These are the buyers Ashford was supplying," Morgan continued. "Militia groups, cartels, terror cells. They're not going away just because Ashford's in prison. They're going to look for new sources, new corrupt operators to recruit." Admiral Hawkins spoke up. "Which is why we need you to go back, Commander." Emma looked up sharply. "Back where?" "The Anchor. We want you to keep running the bar. Keep it as a SEAL hangout. But this time, you're fishing. We'll leak information through certain channels that you're open to opportunities, frustrated with the Navy, looking for a way to make real money." Emma's stomach dropped. "You want me to pose as corrupt?" "We want you to be bait," Agent Brennan said. "The buyers will hear about you. They'll approach you. And when they do, we'll be watching. We'll identify every corrupt operator in the network. Not just Ashford's people. Everyone." "How long?" 12 months, Admiral Hawkins said. 1 year. After that, you're done. You'll have earned your retirement 10 times over." Emma stared at the table. 12 more months of lying, of pretending, of playing a role. But if she didn't do it, how many more weapons would end up in the wrong hands? How many more Americans would die because someone like Marcus decided money was worth more than honor? She looked up. I'll do it, but I need one condition. Name it. When this is over, when all 12 months are done, I walk away. No more missions, no more task forces, no more one last job. I'm done. Admiral Hawkins extended his hand. You have my word, Commander. Emma shook it. This was twist number 7. The mission wasn't over. It was just beginning. Morgan closed the folder. 3 of the operators cut deals. They're testifying against Ashford in exchange for reduced sentences. But we lost 2. They disappeared before we could arrest them. We think they fled the country. Emma nodded. And Sterling? Morgan's expression softened. He's cooperating fully. He'll serve time, but not as much as he would have. The judge took his cooperation into account. Emma was quiet. That was something, at least. 2 months after the trial, Emma received a letter. It was postmarked from FCI Englewood, a federal prison in Colorado. She almost threw it away, but something made her open it. The handwriting was shaky but legible. Commander Carter, I know I have no right to write to you, no right to ask for anything, but I wanted you to know that my testimony helped convict 6 more operators. Men who were still out there, still selling weapons, still betraying everything we swore to protect. I'll spend the next 8 years in prison. I deserve more, but the judge was lenient because I cooperated. Every day I think about my son, about the fact that I helped arm the people who might have killed him. That guilt will never go away. But I also think about you, about the fact that you gave me a chance to do the right thing at the end. You didn't have to. You could have arrested me, turned me in without warning, but you listened. And because you listened, 6 more traitors are off the street. Thank you for that, Lawrence Sterling. Emma folded the letter and put it in a drawer. She didn't respond, didn't need to. Sterling had made his choice, and now he was living with the consequences. That was enough. A week later, Declan stopped by the bar. He looked different, lighter, somehow. He ordered a Coke and sat at the counter. Uncle Malcolm's trial starts next month, he said. Prosecution asked if I'd testify. I said yes. Emma poured herself a water. That can't be easy. It's not. He's family, but he's also a criminal who put American lives at risk. Declan looked at her. You taught me something, Commander. You taught me that loyalty to family doesn't mean covering for their crimes. It means holding them accountable, making sure they face justice. Your uncle taught you that, not me. No, you did, by choosing to do the right thing, even when it hurt. Declan finished his Coke and stood up. Thank you, Emma, for everything. He walked out, and Emma never saw him again. But 6 months later, she read in the paper that Malcolm Ashford had been sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. His nephew's testimony had been instrumental. Isabel Rousseau transferred to SEAL Team 7 and became the first female sniper instructor at the Naval Special Warfare Center. It looked the same as it had before Victor and his men had walked through the door. But everything was different. Emma unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The familiar smell of wood and whiskey greeted her. She walked behind the bar, poured herself a bourbon, and sat down on a stool. Hammer joined her. You gonna be okay? 12 more months is a long time. I'll be fine. What does your gut say? Emma sipped her bourbon. My gut says I'm tired, that I've been fighting for 8 years, and I don't know if I have anything left to give. And your head? My head says there's still work to do, that if I stop now, my father died for nothing. Hammer was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Your father didn't die for nothing, Emma. He died doing what he believed in. protecting people, serving his country, and you've honored that. You've done more than most people would. But you don't owe the Navy your whole life. You don't owe them everything. Emma set her glass down. Then what do I owe them? Nothing. But you owe yourself a chance to live, to be happy, to find something beyond the uniform. Emma looked at him. Is that what you did? When you retired? Hammer smiled. Yeah, and it was the best decision I ever made. My kids know who I am now. My wife doesn't flinch every time the phone rings. I sleep through the night. It's not perfect, but it's mine. Emma nodded slowly. 1 year, then I'm done. That's all I'm asking. The next morning, Emma drove to Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery. She parked near the entrance and walked through rows of white headstones until she found the one she was looking for. David James Carter, Captain, United States Navy SEAL Team 3, 1975 to 2013. Beloved father, patriot, hero. Emma knelt in the grass and placed a hand on the cold stone. Hey, Dad. I know it's been a while. The wind rustled through the trees. Seagulls called in the distance. I got them, Emma said. Victor, Marcus, Ashford, all of them. They're in prison now. They'll never hurt anyone again. Her voice cracked. I finished the mission. I did what you would have done. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, but I'm not done yet. There's 1 more year, 1 more mission, and then I think I can finally rest. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of salt and eucalyptus. Emma closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she saw a man standing a few rows away. Tall, gray hair. He wore a Navy dress uniform, ribbons on his chest. He was placing flowers on a grave. Emma watched him for a moment. Then she stood up, wiped her eyes, and walked over. The man looked up as she approached. He was older than she'd thought, 70s maybe, but his eyes were sharp, alert. Can I help you? Emma gestured to the grave. Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. You're not intruding. The man looked back at the headstone. My son, he was a SEAL, killed in Iraq in 2006. I come here every week to talk to him, to make sure he knows he's not forgotten. Emma's throat tightened. I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry for yours. The man gestured to her father's grave. David Carter. I knew him. Not well, but I knew him. Good man. Hell of an operator. Emma nodded. He was. You his daughter? Yes, sir. The man extended his hand. Captain Michael O'Brien, retired. Emma, it means living the life they fought to protect. Being happy, finding peace. That's the real mission, Commander. Not revenge, not justice. Peace. Emma felt something shift inside her. A weight she'd been carrying for 13 years, loosening just slightly. Thank you, sir. O'Brien nodded. Take care of yourself, Commander, and remember, your father's sacrifice wasn't in vain, but it's only meaningful if you choose to live. He walked away, leaving Emma standing alone among the headstones. She looked not as a SEAL, just as someone who understood. On a Friday evening in December, as Emma was closing up, someone knocked on the door. She looked up and saw a young woman standing outside, mid-20s, nervous. She wore a Marine Corps t-shirt. Emma unlocked the door. Sorry, we're closed. I know, the woman hesitated. I heard this was a place for veterans, a safe place. Emma's expression softened. It is. Come in. The woman stepped inside. Emma locked the door behind her and gestured to the bar. Have a seat. I'm Emma. Jessica, I just got back from Afghanistan. 11 months deployed. I'm having a hard time adjusting. Emma poured 2 glasses of water and sat down beside her. Tell me about it. And Jessica did. She talked for an hour about the things she'd seen, the friends she'd lost, the nightmares that woke her up every night. Emma listened. She didn't offer advice, didn't try to fix anything, just listened. When Jessica finished, she wiped her eyes and said, Thank you. I didn't know where else to go. Emma put a hand on her shoulder. You came to the right place, and you're welcome here anytime, day or night. You need someone to talk to, you call me. Jessica nodded. I will. She left, and Emma locked the door behind her. As she turned off the lights and climbed the stairs to her apartment, she thought about her father, about Marcus, about Emma climbed into bed and, for the first time in years, slept through the night. No nightmares, no flashbacks, just peace. And in the morning, she'd wake up and do it all over again. Because that's what warriors did. They kept fighting, not with guns or violence, but with compassion, with understanding, with the simple act of showing up. That was her father's real legacy, not the missions he'd completed or the enemies he'd defeated, but the people he'd inspired, the lives he'd touched, the example he'd set. And Emma would carry that forward, every day, for the next 12 months. And then finally, she'd be free. Because honor wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about justice. It was about choosing to live with integrity, even when the world made it hard. It was about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. It was about remembering that the hardest battles weren't fought with weapons. They were fought with the decision to keep going, to keep believing, to keep hoping. And Emma Carter, daughter of Captain David "Ghost" Carter, had finally learned that lesson. The mission continued. But this time, Emma knew exactly what she was fighting for.